You know, you don't have to stand every time I hear Hail to the Chief, wonder where the hell is he? Took me a long while. You think I'm joking? I'm not. Turn around and where's the president? John McCain became one of my closest friends. We used to have debates with me and, for example, Jim Eastland. But we'd debate like hell on the floor of the Senate and go and have lunch together. My background and the background of my family is Irish American. And we have a long history of not fundamentally unlike the Palestinian people with Great Britain and their attitude toward Irish Catholics over the years, for 400 years. But then they had the second operation. They found an aneurysm on the other side of my brain. I joked the reason they went in twice to take the top of my head off was they couldn't find a brain the first time.
You're coming under a lot of fire for your fist bump with the Crown Prince. I just wanted to give you a chance to respond to that. But also, how can you be sure that another incident, Prince? I just wanted to give you a chance to respond to that. But also, how can you be sure that another incident won't happen again?
Well, God love you. What a silly question.
When under a previous administration, the Obama administration, with Joe Biden as his vice president, where Energy Secretary Stephen Chu said in a hearing, somehow we have to figure out how to boost the price of gasoline to the levels in Europe. Now, later he had to walk that back because of the backlash. But the issues that we're facing today, that every American is facing today, is not new. This is not accidental. This is intentional.
Mr. President, do you want to call on the next question?
Sure. I was given a list here. Steve Holland of Reuters.
תודה לנשיא המדינה ולנשיא ארצות הברית. Thank you, President Herzog and President Biden.
It's hard to say these words for over 50 years. I can't be that long, but for over 50 years.
Explain to me the legal basis for a universal injunction.
For a universal
injunction, the legal basis.
The legal standard for nationwide.
Not the standard, the legal basis.
I understand, Mr. Kennedy, that question as to whether or not judicial.
Yes, ma'am. But when a federal district judge issues a universal injunction that applies not just in his or her district, judicial district, but the United States, and the parties say, Judge, what is your legal basis for doing this? Is there a statute? Is it in the Constitution? What is the answer?
What within our district and the Southern litigants.
Maybe I'm not being clear. I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman. If you could, just tell me the legal basis. Where does a federal judge get the authority to issue a universal injunction?
The authority that judges in as nationwide injunction.
I know they have, but what's the legal basis for it?
Again, that's my understanding of when those have been enforced.
Okay. Thanks, Judge.
Can you tell me why this particular sale was canceled? What consultations were done with industry that led to this claim about lack of industry interest? Because
for us to move that forward, we would have had to have interest from the actual companies who would be bidding on the leases.
Right, but if there has been nothing that has laid down, they can't indicate what their interest is. It's kind of a chicken and egg or a horse before the cart. I mean, but what happened was there was no ability, no opportunity to even show an interest because the sale was entirely canceled.
Well, I appreciate your perspective on this, and I'm not sure what to say other than what I have already said.
We have the lowest rate of almost every major nation.
Mr. President, what's your message to Democrats who don't want you to run again?
They want me to run.
2/3 say they
Read
don't.
the polls. Read the polls, Jack. You guys are all the same. That poll showed that 92% of Democrats, if I ran, would vote for me.
A majority of Democrats say they don't want you to run again in 2024.
92%.
64% of Democrats say that they would prefer a different candidate in 2024. And I would also say from that very same poll, there were 92% of Democrats who support this president.
I just wanted to follow up on Caitlin's question earlier. You mentioned some of the accomplishments of the administration, but that same poll that came out said that 63% of Democrats believe the country is headed in the wrong direction. How do you explain that?
Well, we understand what the American people are feeling. We're not going to pay attention to polls. It's not.
It's amazing. I wonder what the press like in all those other places.
Time for the press to leave, and then we'll continue the briefing.
Make no mistake. Sit down, you'll hear what I have to say. If you think
The president first told him to sit down and listen, and then encouraged him to continue speaking. I'm just wondering.
I was not part of that meeting, so I can't speak to what they spoke on.
Any members of the board ever meet with Twitter executives? We know we have minutes of planned meetings with Twitter executives to ask for cooperation in tracking speech. Did that ever happen at any point to your knowledge?
I disagree with your characterization of...
Did the meetings with the Twitter executives ever happen to your knowledge?
If I can finish, I disagree with your characterization of the purpose of a meeting that never happened. The meeting with Twitter never happened.
Okay, to your knowledge, it never happened. I'll just say that I regret that it has taken months to get the most basic information about this board. And again, we would know none of this, none, had it not been for a whistleblower who turned over these documents. Frankly, that is totally, totally unacceptable.